taxes are gonna go down just because we don't have TIF. The reality is any taxing entity always has issues that they can spend money on. And they're legitimate things that, man, if we only have this, we could really make a benefit, do something.
But that's not
So,
what happened.
well, but when you get a windfall, like the windmills that came in, that's something that was not planned on, you know, when we set levies and we committed to projects. And so when you get that, every school, at the hospital, every entity, like, oh, now we're gonna have some extra money. Well, if it just goes to either programs or something that really is not gonna have a benefit in the long run from a tax standpoint, you know, then that windfall gets diluted and you don't get as much bang for the buck. Whereas we're taking it and focusing it on the roads, on housing projects, that's going to protect tax base and create new tax base. Directly benefiting everyone, because we're gonna increase the tax base that's going to protect future levies on everybody.
Right.
So it's to our benefit to be focusing this windfall in income generating assets, really, is what they are.
Well, with this, and I think I've mentioned it here in this meeting before, and I know Al questioned it, is once we have value out there, history tells us, doesn't matter if it's a city or a county, they're under the 350 limitation on a county, the 810 limit on the city. Whatever value is there, that's the first thing a municipality asks for. What's my valuation? So then they say how many dollars we get, and then they prepare the budgets. So if valuations are up, you know, all of a sudden they're doing little things. Okay, now we can afford payroll increases or whatever because the value's there. If it's holding steady or it's dropping, they adjust their budget to what that is.
Right.
So to say, okay, now all of a sudden we got X amount of new value coming in, we're going to lower the tax levy. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
I say mathematically, you could say it, yes, but that's assuming.
In theory, that's a theory that it should if they held the things. But what I'm concerned on in wind turbines, and I think if you remember I said the last time here, is I don't look at this the same thing as, let's say, Ford company came in and says, I want to build a company here, and we're going to build new. You've got something that's sustainable for a long time potentially. Wind turbines, as we know, they got 20-year lives. Are they, and with technology, are they going to come back and regenerate those at the next 20 years?
That's my concern too.
So here it is. If let's just say it's got a 20-year life, and particularly on these, if we take that value and everybody uses it in their operations,
right,
and we don't TIF it,
right,
all of a sudden, boom, we're doing these things, and we've raised operational costs,
right,
and they've got them locked into their budgets. And what happens when the Lion or Mid-American, whoever these companies are, say we're going to go into solar now, or we're going into whatever it is, and they take these down. They got all this values coming off, and now all of a sudden you got to adjust your budget.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And it's because they're really going to operate with what those dollars are. The reality is that's what's happening.
Yes.
And so to go backwards, to me, when I look at TIF in this particular on wind ones, is the most conservative approach to take is to put it in economic development, economic development through urban renewal, because you have to spend that on a project that is needed in the community that you wouldn't have been able to get done. And at the end of that time frame, you say, hey, look, we put down so much concrete here, we fixed the conservation center, we did all these projects, and then when that value's done, they're there. Otherwise, it's operational.
Right.
And it goes, maybe more employees. I'm not even against staff, but more employees, more of this, and more operations out there. And now you got to cut that back, and now you don't have your projects done. And that's why what you can do with that, that's the economic development tool, which the legislature allowed to say, hey, we can use new increment. It's nothing on the old. It's anything new development, put in to projects
Right.
that qualify.
Right.
Anybody who argues that we don't need housing, I can argue, I have lots of statistics to back me up, lots of organizations to back me up, and even my personal experiences to back up. We do need it.
You know, specifically Mitchell County housing, well, Mitchell County's the first one, I think, Joel, or when we started first wind turbine back in 2008. Were you on board?
Yeah.
Yes. You know, it had never been done.
My idea to TIF them.
That's right. You know, no, I mean, TIF's been going on, but
Right.
there'd been wind towers in northwest Iowa for years. No one had ever done it.
Yeah.
Right here is the first time. And so, like, let's use these as economic development tools and get projects done. And from there, it spiraled, and many counties
Chris and Winnebago and everybody jumped
all,
on it.
you know, have followed. And most of the projects have been done, have been pretty easy to tell the public, in which majority of roads have been roads.
Yeah.
Roads are a very easy one. Everybody uses them.
Yeah.
It's pretty non-controversial. As you go to the next steps, you know, when you get to the point where not everybody directly benefits from it, then all of a sudden you have somebody raising a question. Okay, I don't believe in conservation as much as John Doe does. Okay, so my dollar's going over there. Well, then, you know, it's, well, in this case, the courthouse was another one. You know, hey, everybody's gonna pay for it one way or the other. It's gonna pay for your property taxes, or, you know, but see, as we bring these projects together, you notice how all of a sudden there's more controversy, meaning differing of opinion. Not that it's still legal. And so now we came to the point, many communities ask about housing. How do we get there? How do we get, you know, cities usually don't have enough. I mean, they're doing as much, they only have so many dollars to do it. Counties, you know, I've had other counties look at it, but nobody's really jumped into it here until a year ago. It's like, it needs to be done. But it narrows down to directly, fewer people are getting their direct benefit. You have to look at the
But
long-term
they're not
benefit.
looking at that bigger picture of if we have more housing, that's gonna keep our current help here.
That's-
Because the employers are concerned about that. I mean, some of them have even talked of leaving because they can't get enough workers. And we need to do everything we can to keep people here, including recreational, the conservation, all that. All those are things that are gonna draw the young families in. And that's what we need to be concerned about.
We need a nice lake in this county.
No,
That's no
That's a
kidding.
big
No,
plus.
we have a nice
That's big
river,
plus.
though. We have a great river and a nice little lake up in
We have
Mitchell.
we have Lake Hendricks.
That's not in this
But
county.
I was gonna say, but it's an hour,
But you
but
go
it's
to Lake Hendricks in
close.
the summertime, it's like a little city right there.
no,
Down by
It
the-
is.
recreation
Yeah.
lands.
Mhm, it's a big
Just
deal.
walk to there.
Well, and that's why if they could do that kayaking thing up by Otrano, by the dam, that is in the county, and that would be a huge, plus.
But that is truly economic development that fits under the code of tax income and financing. And it's back, Tony, you know, are we gonna utilize the dollars or not?
Right.
And, you know, you start,
I think what a lot of people see is this $3 million, and then they look at what we levy for taxes, or what the county levies for taxes, about 5.4, or whatever it is now. They think that $3 million will go against that 5.4, and their property tax will go way down. I think that's what they're thinking. That's gonna happen, but it never would work that way.
well, no, I mean,
No.
the understanding is everybody pays property tax. I mean, that's the first thing is they think this is money coming from where it is or what it's not. It's anything that has come, whether somebody builds a house or new value on ag land or anything, when you got new value, it generates more revenue. So wind turbines are just another one where they're another taxpayer. So instead of that taxpayer going ahead and divvying up between all the taxing bodies, you're taking all of their bill, because the person who's paying doesn't have a clue whether it's in TIF or not. It doesn't matter to them. They're just paying their property tax bill. So if let's say somebody has a new $1,000 property tax bill, let's just say that easy figuring for the wind turbine is if it wasn't in TIF, about $380 is gonna go to the county. You're gonna have townships take some, and then it goes basically in the school aid foundation. It isn't going to the school, because the school, and I'm not gonna go over again the school aid formula, because we do it a lot, but they get dollars based on a pupil amount. So it doesn't matter if you got 10 million more turbines, it isn't gonna put more dollars into the school classroom.
A lot of people still don't
They don't
understand
understand the school aid formula. But, so anyway, so the school portion in turn, that property tax gets, you're lowering that levy rate for the school to get the same amount, and then the state doesn't have to bring in the dollar.
I think you're on the right track.
The housing is so easy to prove, though, how
I
it
think
helps
so.
us in the long run.
Right. And I mean, I get the fact that people say you're concentrating the benefit on a few people, the initial, like you say.
Right.
And I get that. But the fact is, we're doing that to increase the tax base for everyone, to protect that for the long run for everybody's tax assessment to be as stable and as low as possible.
Yeah, that can actually lower it in the long run.
Yeah. So you can keep it low or you can keep it consistent and you still have better infrastructure than you would have without it. I think we can easily show the benefit for everybody in the county. And granted, the initial part of the investment is focused on individuals, but really there's no other way around that. And so we try to keep the incentive enough that it truly is an incentive, but small enough that we can still share it with as many people as possible to get that bang for the buck for the vast majority of people, so.
Yeah, I mean, and the county's been fortunate, just geographically, to have the amount of wind turbines
Right.
bringing into the county. And there's new ones coming on,
Right.
and, that's other values where, today I don't have any figures with me on the percentage of where we're at, 50 to 70% with under the old towers. Then when you bring the new ones on, even the proposed issuance that we're going to be doing hearings here in a few weeks is not, that's, the old one would take care of it alone, but now you're going to have all the new wind turbines, which is going to really basically, it puts an insurance policy underneath the county to spread that out. So,
Well, I think the only risk involved, and it's such a small risk, that if the developers that put them in, somehow the entire energy scheme changes and wind energy is no longer a viable option and they go bankrupt. But the odds of that happening are so minuscule and small that it
well,
verges
true,
on
particularly
non-existent.
the life of the generator itself is, if some municipality went under, you've got a value that's very valuable, that somebody's gonna take that and
Right.
get that energy into the grid system, as
Right.
long as that useful life is still there.
Right.
That's-
That's like I say, the odds of something catastrophic happening, that it's no longer there, it's just verges on non-existent. I was trying to see it from someone's negative perception of, what the risk was. I was trying to figure out
We
what
want to be
the fear
conservative
is.
in some
It's
ways.
like, okay, what is a worst case scenario?
Right. We need to think of that.
Right.
And that's
I
why,
think it's only
and that's
fair.
why it's good early in the 20-year life, you wanna be somewhat cautious of overdoing it. You wanna leave a portion there.
And I do not,
And we've done that. We started at
Plan on
50 and
using it all.
and leaving, 25% as cushion for, because I mean, let's just say natural disaster came in, that'd be the biggest one, to take out
Probably.
turbines.
Which could,
It could happen, but turbines are spread all across the county to take out,
it's not
you know,
gonna take all of them.
no, I mean.
Well, and they're not on the line either,
They're on-
there's no shot that you can
Right.
take to take them
And
out.
so, you know, you talk about worst case scenario, you've got a few that could be hit by natural disaster. That would be one thing, and if they didn't replace them by insurance.
Right,
Otherwise, you know, the viability of worst case of a utility going bankrupt, some other utility's gonna buy them out.
right.
And so as long as those life are there, that property tax gets paid on those because they're gonna, energy is valuable.
And
They're up and running, so it's minimal. I mean, there's always a risk in everything in life, but as far as what the county's position is
Right.
now,
Right.
is minuscule as far as.
That's like I said, I mean, I've been racking my brain trying to figure out what could possibly go wrong and what are the odds of that.
Well,
Just-
it's, no, the theory is, and we've talked about this here, is, in theory, there's more value there, you know, if all officials were prudent, say, we're never gonna increase our budget ever again, and any new value comes in is gonna lower our taxes to the public. I mean, that's a theory, that doesn't happen, but if, in theory, if you're gonna live on that theory, technically, the property taxes should be reduced. If let's say, the city of Osage, let's just say, the budget is, I'm just gonna throw a number out of $1 million. And we're always gonna operate at $1 million. New business comes in, and all of a sudden, you know, we started.
We're gonna lower our
Base
sales
one, we
tax.
raise $1 million of taxes, and we got operations of $1 million. 5 years down the road, we got new value, now all of a sudden, we're bringing in $1.5 million. But we're gonna hold the line at $1 million because that's what forever is our budget. Then that new million, then everybody's property taxes is reduced.
Right,
But as growth goes in, costs go up. And whatever that value is, operations, or it's no different, hey, you know, driving down the streets of Osage, there's street improvements, they got a new curb and gutter, it's happening here today where road streets are closed and you gotta repair them. So what do you do when you do that? When you have value to do that.
right.
Bottom line, as a supervisor, personally, I am fiscally conservative, but I know to be progressive and to even not go backwards, I can't always think too conservatively, and I think we'd be crazy not to use some of this TIF.
Well, it is, you know, the side is, as I started beginning, is I think it's the most fiscal conservative action to take is to use the TIF rather than to operate it away and get used to it. That way you as an elected official can always come back and say, you know, we did not raise operations of this, we're doing pay-as-you-go on some projects, but these are the projects, when I get said and done, this is what we accomplished, and you can always put a name to what that TIF dollar did.
Show us some
If
proof.
you never TIFed it, those dollars are evaporated away in the budget. Yeah, you'll get maybe some potholes filled or this or that, but you won't be
Nothing
able
of
to come back and
significance.
say, we put in a conservation center. We built a new edition of economic development with housing incentives of 50 new homes.
That's right.
We did X amount of miles of pavement, and here's are the roads, and you can define that because you have to, by law, define every
Sure.
project that you're doing
Sure.
when you do.
Right.
So then when that's done and you're done tiffing, and it does come, you get to that point, because there will be a life on these, this 20 years will run out, and you can only use 20-year increment, it has to come back. Then all of a sudden, you've got all these projects done, then you use 20 years from now, that value comes in, if they're gonna double it up, then you got it for budget to operate on.
Yeah. Well, we're really trying to do the right thing.
Well, and the hard thing is convincing people that it is in the long-term interest of the county to do
Yes.
it.
I
That's
firmly
what we're
believe that.
trying to do, is to create assets that is, like you say, you can point to, and this is something that's gonna be with us for a long haul. So,
Yeah,
that is,
Yeah.
that's the
Okay.
goal.
this is a Friday afternoon, I think we should let you get out of
You
here.
came
Let's
for,
go back to Perry.
you came for the party.
That's it.